I just wanted us to dive right in. And I just wanted to find out what motivated you to write Gems of Healthy Living. Yes, this beautiful book that I purchased from you. I don't know if you can see it.
Wow.
I'll post the video. Gems of Healthy Living. There.
I can see, yes, I
Yes, your
can see.
beautiful cover with diamonds. Diamonds in with them, all type of stones that are there. What motivated you to write such a beautiful, beautiful book? Gems of Healthy Living.
Wow. First, thank you so much for having me here, Maria. I really admire what you're doing. And I must say congratulations.
Thank
Then thank you for purchasing my book. Yeah. Yani, we should have 1 million of you, so because you are the people who make authors keep writing.
Oh, thank you.
So, asante sana. So, on to your question, what motivated me to write, especially this one book, The Gems of Healthy Living, is because I'm a very introspective person. So, anytime I see a trend in the society, it really makes me think a lot. And I'm always like, what's the solution? What can we do? So I had just noticed that there were a lot of illnesses that are emerging, many lifestyle diseases. A lot of people are just not well, and it really was for some time. I remember when first I always wanted to write a book. That's something I knew from the beginning. Maybe I'll talk about that later.
Yes.
But so for this one specifically, that was the thing. That's what moved me, because I was like, there's this thing I know about wellness, which I believe it's just in order that I share. Let me share. And that's what really motivated me to write the book.
Wow. Yeah. Were the people you were observing around you, friends, family, or was it feedback you were getting from maybe people in hospitals? How did you collect that data?
So I'm sure it's something maybe which you've also noticed. There's been a lot of cancer issues, many diseases, high blood pressure. In every 4 or 5 people that has cancer, or someone has high blood pressure, or someone is suffering from a certain lifestyle disease,
Diabetes.
So we see, diabetes, we see it, we hear it. There are so many people that I know who have digestive issues, and those are not things that were there when we were growing up. Yeah. I can really attest, because I've heard our parents saying, they're saying these were not there before. So it's not that we were too young, we didn't know that these diseases were existing. But now it seems like it's too much. There's a lot of disease all around. So that really was a wake-up call to me. And then there are people around me who suffered some of these diseases, and that are more reason to write this book. Yeah.
Wow. And when you say people around, I was just reflecting on what you're saying. Is it like generation past, or is it like can we say 2 generations behind us who did not even have a term called lifestyle disease, or is it something now that has cropped up with our generation?
It's something before, when you hear people have high blood pressure, just by hearing that, you would think of an old man or an old lady somewhere. But now, to a point where someone is telling you, I went to hospital and my son has this issue. My son is suffering from diabetes, and that's a small baby.
Yes.
Yeah. It begs us to really think hard and say, what is really happening? What's happening in our is it what has changed? Is it our lifestyle? Is it the foods we are eating? There has to be something that is amiss, and we need to attack it. We really need to find out what it is and try to curb it.
Wow. Yeah. So now with that, I believe with that question, I think that's what led to the writing of this book, Gems of Healthy Living. And when I purchased it, my husband bought it for me as a gift, and I read it definitely. One of the things that you talked about in this book was holistic health. Yes. And I read it and now I understand what it is. But those who are watching us today, what is holistic health according to Jemimah?
Okay. So many times when someone says I'm healthy, or when someone asks you, Mawia, are you healthy, or do you think you're healthy? The first thing you think about is, I'm not sick, I'm not in pain, I'm not on medication, you know. So clearly I am healthy. But health is actually not the absence of pain or the absence of disease. That's what I've come to figure with time. So I almost feel like maybe I should mention that I've always been very passionate about matters wellness and matters health. In fact, when I was a kid, I used to say, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. Yeah.
You are
But
now
things
in a
happened
different way.
in a different way. Exactly. Things happened. I missed joining uni to do medicine by just 1 point, but I think God had other plans for me. Maybe He really wanted me to go deeper into this thing and look at it from a different point of view and not from the conventional way. Yeah.
Yes.
So when we say holistic health, we are actually talking about a sum total of every aspect of wellness. So be it physical, where you don't have pain, you're not on medication or anything, to the mental, and nowadays of mental issues, it was not normal before. Before, I think there was just that one madman in the community. They used to as a madman.
Yes.
But there are other people who are suffering, but in silence within the families. Yeah. But now these are things that have been amplified. So there's also that mental wellness, there's emotional wellness, there's social wellness, the fact that you think it's just okay for you to want to be alone and you can't be before with other people. It's actually a disease. So there are many ways of disease. It's just not necessarily the absence of disease, the absence of pain, or the fact that you're not on medication. So when we talk about holistic health, we are looking at all those aspects of health. Yeah.
Wow, holistic health. When I actually read this book, I was like, hey, okay. I thought I was getting myself a book on nutrition, juice, or foods. Then the first couple of topics, I was like, I didn't realize that for me to be healthy holistically, that these areas like emotional, social, mental, financial, you even mentioned spiritual along the way. And I was so impressed. When I read this, I was like, this is beyond amazing. So this is what I got from the first introduction of holistic health. Total health and wellness is a sum total of optimal physical, emotional, social, mental, spiritual, and financial wellness. And as I read this book, there was a key theme in your book. And I think this is, for me, the area that when I bought the book, I really wanted to focus on, and that was on nutrition and health. Yes. And I wanted you to share some practical tips on principles that you outlined in your book about the link between nutrition and health, because so many times we confuse the two and think you can if I'm eating well or I'm or exercising, I'm okay. But I was impressed. Please expound nutrition and health.
Okay, so I'm sure you've heard of the phrase that you are what you eat. Yeah. And that is true not just for human beings, but also for animals, for plants, for any living thing. And that's why even when farmers are planting, they just make sure that they are feeding their crop with the right thing. It's actually called plant nutrition. So same thing to we human beings. You are actually what you eat. But many times we eat out of, is it convenience? We eat what is available, but maybe it's not the right thing for you. So in my book, first, the reason I wrote this book and maybe included all those things, because you're not the first person who's telling me that you expect me to have maybe, juice recipes, because I'm known for that, foods and stuff like that. But the reason I wrote it like this was to just like have a foundation so that by the time now we are going deeper into nutrition going deeper into emotional wellness, into mental, into social, and all the other aspects, you will have known where are we coming from, what is holistic wellness. Yeah. So on nutrition, nutrition is very, very key. Interestingly, many times we don't really think about it. So when I started thinking about nutrition, some of the things I found out, and even from my research, I learned is you can eat food. Some foods are medicine.
Yes.
Other foods are actually poisonous to the body. And other foods are just fillers, to just fill up the space, but they don't have any nutritional content.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I went deeper into that in my book, I talk about when you say food is medicine, it means that that's nourishing food that adds life to you.
Yes.
Yeah. So it makes your body thrive, your body feels good. Yeah. I love gardening, and I always know when we've just done manure, maybe like on our grass, and then it rains, there's a way the grass comes up, and there's a way all the flowers also start blooming really beautifully because they're fed with good food. Yeah. But if I was to throw something bad, maybe to the grass, something that would affect it, then the opposite would be true. Same thing to human beings. When you eat negative foods that are not foods that will build your body, that will nourish you, that are full of nutrients, the same thing will happen. Your body will start to react. So there are things that are very open. Like there are people who will tell you, I'm allergic to this type of food.
Yes.
Because when I eat, either I get rashes, I get a stomach ache, I diarrhea, and all that. So that one first is automatically that food is poisonous to the person. So the person eats, they're actually eating food as poison.
Yes.
Yeah. So what we should do is actually to ensure that whenever you are picking your food, pick foods that are nourishing. And the amazing thing is this, it's very easy to do that. Yeah.
How so?
Nutritious foods, yeah, it's actually very easy to do that. Most of the nutritious food are foods that are easily available around us. You don't have to break the bank, because when you tell people you need to clean your diet, they're like, that will be expensive, because they think I'll start telling you to start eating things like what now? Buy celery, buy broccoli, yeah, artichoke, stuff like that. These things that are very expensive and not to find. But you can actually have these things within your locality, within where you live. The rule of the thumb is just ensure that the food that you're eating is closest to its natural state as possible. Yeah.
By natural state, you mean from Mother Earth?
Yes, from Mother Earth. As in Mother Earth knows what is best for us. You see. So when I talk about that, we're talking about what? The vegetables,
yes,
the fruit, yeah, the legumes. And interestingly, you can get all the food groups from these naturally occurring things. You don't have to eat a processed thing to get protein, for example. You can get protein from beans, yeah? That's naturally occurring, yeah? You can get carbohydrates from, let's say, maize, corn, yeah? You can get from cassava, from sweet potatoes, from arrowroots. You can get vitamins from very, very many types of vegetables that we have, the organic and even these other ones that are not very, not really, I don't mean like organic, but locally available vegetables, and others that are a bit exotic, but now we are able to plant them here. All those are good sources of a balanced diet. Yeah. So we can get it easily. Yeah.
Wow, and that's very interesting because it's so funny. We all know, or we have the sense of our mothers or our parents told us eat organic food. But can we say we have conditioned our taste buds to enjoy processed food or filler foods? Or is it become now a habit? What happens? Because if you tell someone who's diabetic that they should eat the foods that you have recommended, they struggle and they have challenges. But what has happened? What has happened to us as a society or a culture or individuals?
Yeah. It's actually conditioning, because human, we are products of conditioning. You're used to waking up at a particular time, you're used to eating in a particular way. And I think the thing is, a long time ago, when we used to look at these foods, not even a long time ago, I think just as we are growing, around where we are now, when many people our age look at this type of foods, they think it's either for people who live up country, or for the poor. The fact that you can afford, I'm really avoiding to call brands, but the fact that you can avoid some nice chicken somewhere, you really think that means that you really made it. But that's not necessarily the case. So we've just conditioned ourselves. And therefore, now with the right information and the right knowledge, we can change, we can recondition ourselves to like the right things. I always give an example of my children. Children are not known, in Kenya, children are not known to like these local foods. But it's so amazing that my children love local food. And just out of being taught, out of conditioning, because we've kept doing that over and over again. The other day, actually 2 days ago, my house manager mentioned something that was interesting. And she was like, it's amazing that people like porridge in this house nowadays. Now, referring, of course, my children.
Yes.
Because nowadays, they even ask for it. They're like, can we just have porridge? Yeah. One day, our last born daughter, who is 7 years old, said, there was bread for breakfast. And she was like, I don't want bread. I want sweet potatoes. Yeah. It's amazing, because it's just about conditioning, because we've conditioned them, we have taught them, we've made the information available to them. They hear me speaking about it, training about it. They've read my book, and now it's a lifestyle we are inculcating. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's my desire. That was my desire when I was writing this book, that people can inculcate a culture of wellness, of pursuing wellness in the right way.
Wow. I think one of the things, as you were discussing, and even when I was reading this book, was how do we break that stereotype or conditioning that has been bombarded to us, that organic or Mother Earth kind of food is expensive? Because that's where the argument always comes about of, but eating healthy is expensive. It's easy to buy bread for 50 shillings at the kiosk then. My cassavas, arrowroots. How do you counter that argument when a client comes and tells you, but eating healthy is expensive?
Yeah. I always start with asking them what local foods are available around you. Even for people who come to me to maybe help us do a family meal plan, for example, I always ask them, before I do anything, write for me, how is your food like? What do you eat? And what is locally available near where you are? It's amazing that there's always, these things are there. These things are there. It's just that we're used to shopping in supermarkets. And when we go to supermarkets, maybe you don't easily find them, or you find them, they are quite costly. But if you would just go to your local grocery shop, or the local market, any market that is near you, you'll actually find these foods. And then also, you'll actually realize that nowadays, there's a wave around where many people are starting to grow their own food, and they always have a surplus which they can sell. So if you connect yourself to the right networks, you will easily get these foods. And the reason I'm saying that is because I belong to quite a number of community WhatsApp groups. And from time to time, I see people advertising organic vegetables, arrowroots, sweet potatoes, ndoma, and all that. So they're actually available, and they're not as expensive as you think.
So we just need to stop having an excuse of it's easily available at the supermarket.
Yes. And to stop, and then we are the instant generation, that likes things that are almost ready to cook or just ready to serve.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's just normalize going to Marikiti from time to time, or get a hookup. There are people who even do shopping for people. Yeah. So you can even get a hookup for someone who can be shopping for you once per week, and you make sure that your family is eating well.
Wow. That's such a good mindset shift for anyone who is listening. And it's true that you can actually send people to the market for you to buy food. You can order online nowadays with deliveries. You can be able to get access to that. And those are some of the tips that I actually got, because I used to struggle with going to the market. But now I have someone who actually brings for me my healthy list of vegetables, and I can be able to delegate that task. And also just people who like this, how do you call them? You know how maize flour has become too processed? Sometimes I request for maize and just grind it for myself.
Exactly.
Which is what you actually advocate in the book, from ground to plate, which is more healthier. And that was my main takeaway. But in the book, you highlighted another important topic that I love to talk about, and that is rest and sleep, optimal health. Why is it that we find rest something that is frowned upon? And why did you think it was important for optimal health?
Okay, we are living in very hurried times. We are all in a rush. There's so much to do, as we say in Kiswahili, vitu ni mob. Kuna vitu mob za kufanya. Yeah, there's a lot that you want to accomplish within your waking hours. Yeah, and I don't know what this thing is where we are seriously pursuing. If you ask someone, they'll be like, not after wealth. I'm looking for wealth. I have to work. I have to make money. I have to hustle. I have to do 5 different things, to make ends meet. But sometimes you actually wonder, what are you really trying to do? Because eventually you find this person who has made the money, maybe not as much as they expected, but the life is no longer there. Either they are sick, they're burnt out, they're fatigued, they've contracted diseases because of stress, because stress is one of the leading causes of many, many diseases, including cancer. Yeah. So the reason I'm advocating for rest is because it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a human being or a machine, you need a downtime. Yeah. Even factories don't run 24/7 the entire year. There's a downtime when everything is shut down and service is done. So same thing, how about as human beings who are running on blood? We must have a downtime. So it's something that we must inculcate, and we must inculcate it daily, weekly, monthly, seasonally, whereby I have a downtime hour. I have a downtime day in a week. Yeah. And maybe, let's say quarterly, you can say, I take 1 week off or a few days in a week off. And then I know people who seasonally, like there are people who say, I don't work every birthday month. For example, for me, my birthday is in August, where I can say that I don't work in August. That's the time I take vacation. That's the time I just slow down and re-energize for the next level of my life.
Wow.
Yeah. And what I found out.
Pardon? No, just continue.
Yeah. So what I found out is every time you allow yourself such a downtime, you come back with more energy, more zeal, more clarity of mind to be able to do more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Actually, why I wanted to highlight this topic, because of course you have so many other topics, is because I love reading, and all the books that I read, with my favorite, the 5 a.m. Club, Robin Sharma. There's the one I recently read, Essentialism, and even currently favorite person I'm listening to, Daniel Priestley. They all say, even as you plan your beginning of the year, first block out all the days of your holiday. First, before even you plan this goal, I want to achieve this sales target, I want to get this, block out what days are you going on holiday. Next, block out weekends, a day in the weekend where you're actually not working. And that even resonates with the Bible of Sabbath. Why did God want us to have a Sabbath? And it was so important that you shared this. And there was something in your book I wanted us to reflect on, because it's linked to this, and you highlighted taking power naps. I highlighted this with bold. Why? How can you take power naps in this century, or what are power naps? for those who are listening to us, because I am really trying to add this into my routine.
Okay. So many times we actually, I don't know. I know actually no, it's many people. There are times when you work and you get to a point or an hour where you feel like you're really pushing yourself. Yeah. Where you're actually doing it just because you have to do it. But if it was up to you, you'd have taken a break.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if it happens to you, Maria, but for me, there's
It
that hour.
does. It does.
You know,
It does. At
it could
around
be
2,
after
3
lunch,
p.m.
exactly around 2, 3 p.m. Some people say, depending on what you've had for lunch, you just feel like I really need to take a nap. And many times we feel like we don't have the time for that. It's just not possible. Maybe you're working in an office where your hours are manned and you have to be at your desk throughout. But what I advise is this. For example, if you realize that that's how your body clock works, that maybe after lunch, you feel like you're very lethargic, you'll go sit on that desk, but there's nothing you're doing really. You're either just browsing, just flipping papers here and there and doing nothing. Then what do? You need to find a way of making your afternoon more productive. And there's no better way than taking a power nap. So what you can do is make sure you do your lunch quickly. Look for a nice corner. It could be just be a chair in the garden, or it could be even in your car or on your desk, and shut your eyes for even 5 to 10 minutes.
Wow, I wanted
Yeah.
to find out how long, yes, the power naps should be.
5 to 10 minutes is good. Now, for me, what I normally do, I put an alarm actually. So when I decide, I have a lot of work to do, I need to finish this work, but the way my body is feeling, I need to do something. So I just put an alarm. I do a 10 minutes alarm and I sleep. It could be even on the desk. I just shut my eyes, don't think about anything, you know, put your phone a little bit far so that you're not distracted, or bow your calls. That could be another reason. Another way, just bow your calls and then sleep for the 10 minutes. It's amazing how energized and how refreshed you will be after just 10 minutes.
Wow. That's
And this also applies, sorry, Maria, and this also applies to even people who are driving. I've just remembered, I have a friend who keeps saying that he likes to sleep. So he normally tells us that when he's doing a long distance drive, he never forces himself to keep driving when he's tired. He looks for a safe spot. Maybe it could be a shopping center, a petrol station or something. Find a good parking and just take his 10 or 20 minutes nap.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Even that's a free tip for traveling.
Yes, it is. It is.
Because I don't enjoy driving long distance. And now
Mhm.
I know that
Yeah.
I can actually take a nap at a safe spot along
Yes,
the
you can.
way.
Mhm.
Wow, thank you so much. Jem, for
Yeah.
those who have joined, because this show is it's called the Authors Connect.
Yep.
Are there any specific writing techniques that you used to write this beautiful book? Or what helped you write how many pages? My goodness, this book is loaded, 215 pages.
Yes, 215. Wow. Yeah. So, what tips? Um, First, I know, like for many people, even settling on a topic becomes quite a hectic thing. Yeah. Like I remember for me, I had like I think 3 different topics that I wanted to write about. But at some point I was like, what is the love of my life, in terms of something I would really want to do even later in life. And for me, it was just that. That's what helped me find the topic. After finding the topic, I started jotting down what are the big stones. Sorry, what are the big stones that I want to write about? And when I look at that, Maui, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm listening. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm
So
so keenly listening to your to your point. Yes.
no problem. Yeah. So I was like, what are the big stones? And those are the ones I wrote down first. So
Yes.
at first I think I had around 10 big stones, because I was like, when I think about all-rounded wellness, what am I really talking about? And I just wrote down the big stones.
Yes.
So out of the 10, I kept looking at them and kind of started reducing from time to time. And eventually, I was like, I should divide my book into 5 parts.
Yes.
So my stones became 5 main parts.
Wow.
Yeah. So once I have the 5 parts, then I started populating it. It was just a lot of like now, for example, I look at the topic of food and I'm like, what can I talk about in food? Of course, there's from the known to the unknown. So I start from things like just defining food, and then how is food classified? Some of this is general knowledge. Many people know because it's things that we learn in school, in the science classes, in biology. Yeah. So from there, I do classification. And then after that, I was like, so what is this one thing that I want to teach people about? And that's when I started talking about food as medicine, food as poison, food as a filler. Yeah. So I break it down. So after breaking it down for every of the big stones, then I start populating it now with information.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So for me, that was a writing technique.
Did you have, like, I always ask this question, did you know you were born an author, or did you determine that the greats are writing books, so I should write a book? Or how did you just come to the thought of, let me write a book? That initial thought, what was that journey like?
Okay, so I didn't know that I was born an author, but I knew that I love to write. And I express myself very well in writing than in speaking. So for a long time, I used to feel like I don't have a speaking voice, but I have a writing voice.
Wow.
Because I would write things, and when people read, they are fascinated. Yeah. So growing up, I was this kid who, like, now schools have closed, and it's something I'm trying to even teach my children to do. So schools are closed. You're now arranging your books, especially now it's end of the year. So I used to look at all the books that still have some pages remaining, and I would cut them out and create small notebooks. I wish I carried one, you see. Yeah. So I didn't have staples or anything, and I would even sew it with a thread, with a needle and thread, and just small notebooks. And then what I used to do, I just used to start writing things. I would wake up I see the cows, and I start writing about the cows. Flowers, I start writing about flowers.
Yes.
My mom takes me to town for shopping, and I write about we went to town for shopping. Yeah. And then I really thank God for my mom, because I think she discovered something. Maybe she didn't have the know-how to know, she would have cultured me and even supported me to write maybe a storybook for kids or something. But what she did, she started buying me magazines for children.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember she had even subscribed for me. There's a magazine I used to receive every month. She used to pay an annual subscription for 2 magazines, one called Rainbow and another one called Sparkles.
Wow. That's so sweet of her.
Yeah. And we were somewhere in the Bundus in Shanks, but she used to do that for me. Yeah. So I used to love reading. I read the articles, I fill the crossword puzzle, and I just continue. So for me, it was just like that. And then as I continued um, just growing, I realized that I actually express myself well in writing, and I just started doing that, blogging here and there, writing articles maybe for like a church magazine or a school
Wow.
magazine. Yeah, just
Wow.
writing things. Yeah,
That's so lovely. So we can say that sometimes God has set it in us early enough, and then we
yes,
have telltale signs that we should actually jot down our journey. And even as
exactly.
you are writing this book, I'm sure there were great opportunities in writing them, but also challenges. What were some of the challenges that you encountered as a writer in jotting down your books or your thoughts?
Aha, okay. So I think one main one was what I later come to understand is called writer's block.
Yes, it's real.
So so I realized that sometimes words are flowing. Most times for me, even when I'm seated somewhere, words are flowing in my mind. It's my prayer that that's what happens to many people. But for me, words flow in a very instructional way. It's almost like I'm reading a book almost all the time. If I'm to just think, what am I thinking about? It's always words that are flowing, that are very instructional, that if they can be put somewhere, there'll be a book to be read.
Yes.
So, yeah. So that's how my mind is. But there are these times when I would now have that, there are those moments when I'm writing really, really well and there's a lot flowing. And then there are those moments when I didn't even want to see my manuscript, I'm just like, okay, I'm tired.
Wow, how did you overcome those days?
Overcome it, yes. So overcoming it was to just look at the bigger picture, look at the end. And then maybe something I should have said in my journey of writing, at some point I realized I have to start becoming professional at this. And I remember I enrolled for a certain course called the Leadership Bootcamp that is done by the Mavuno Church. Now, when I enrolled for that course, this is a time when I had felt I now need to do my book. And then I found out that they actually when you go through the leadership bootcamp, one of the deliverables for it is a book authored by you. So I was like, this one will be a good push for me. Let me go in there, learn what I need to learn, and then I make sure I churn out a book. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow.
Yeah. So looking at the bigger picture helped a lot to just fight through the writer's block. And then another thing also is just around that time, I had encountered, that was not even, it was earlier, in around 2014, I came in close contact with the late Dr. Miles Monroe, and we all know him as such an amazing author, and his work still lives on. It's still so refreshing. It's as if he wrote for these times, yet he lived in people. Amazing, yeah. So I remember one lesson I picked from him was, you must die empty. And then he kept reiterating, there's this notion that he keeps saying of in the graveyard, the cemetery is the most expensive place on earth because there are books not written, songs not sung, speeches not given, inventions not done and stuff like that. And I was like, no, I don't want to be part of that statistic. So God has given me this capability to write. Let me write a book. So those are things that I've always kept near me as reminders. Anytime I have writer's block, I know there's a generation waiting to read this book. I need to write it.
Wow, that is so profound, that the bigger picture and remembering that you have to pass this message to the next generation. And that leads me even to the other question is, if there's an aspiring author who's watching this, especially the young generation, how can you inspire them today, or what word of wisdom would you share with them to write that story that is within them, or to begin the writing journey?
Okay. I think what I can tell this young author is no one can tell that story better than you. So first, get over any imposter syndrome of thinking, why me? Because that happens a lot with writers, and just decide, I am the one, I am the best, I'm the one who's been given this. I've met people who normally tell me, I wanted to write about this, and then I realized there's another book written about the same topic. And I'm normally like, your revelation is different from the other person's.
Wow.
Yeah. Or maybe your audience is different from the other person, and you're the only one with the language that your people will understand. So please write that book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even if you're sent to one person, write it.
Just write that book. You never know. There's this lady, I read a story of a certain lady who just loved to write. And then at some point, she wrote a story about their family, the occurrences in the family, all those funny things that we talk about during family gatherings. And then her grandmother was first, so she was like, what? How can I take this? How can I upload this on a Kindle so that my grandmother can read? Because I can't even send it by email. It's a bit too big. So as she was doing that, she just stumbled across Amazon self-publishing app, something like that.
Yes.
And she was like, okay, so you mean I can do this? I can self-publish so that my grandmother can see it. So she just went ahead, did that, told the grandmother to check it out. And the other family members who are away, like, read our story, I've uploaded it. And within no time, she was being called for interviews.
Wow.
And later she was voted as one of New York's bestsellers.
That is so inspiring. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Gosh. And was there, when you talked about the bigger picture, having the bigger picture in mind, did you have a timeline or a deadline, or was there any sense of urgency in writing this book, or it was just a passion project? How did you go about it?
Okay, so now being part of the leadership bootcamp gave me a timeline. There was a timeline already set for that program. I remember we were graduating in November, so that means we had 11 months to write the book. So the big stones I mentioned about, after having set out and knew, these are my big stones, these are my topics, these are the subtopics, and now this is how I'm filling it in. I had to put timelines to it. And I knew I need this amount of time to have taken the manuscript to the editor and then to the publisher. So I started working backwards. And I remember I portioned my book as per the topics, and I knew I need to have finished this chapter by this time. I need to do this other chapter by this time. And then I told my husband to be my sergeant at arms to ensure I'm actually doing that. And I remember there's a time he would look at the schedule and he's like, I'm sorry, but you have to wake up at 3 a.m. to write your book.
Wow, that's so nice.
And I had to do that. So timelines are very important. Now, having written my first book, currently I have one book at the publishers and there's another one I'm writing. I have learned that writing books have an urgency to it. But again, it depends with what you're writing about.
Yes.
But for my kind of genre, the kind of books I'm writing, which are more of lifestyle books, I realize that there's a timeline to it. So whatever message God has given you, you need to put a timeline to it so that you don't stay too much on the manuscript until you're time barred and it becomes an outdated message.
Wow.
You see? Yeah, because I know that's something that has happened to some people where someone has written for too long. So let's say, for example, you are writing about the CDs, these compact discs that we used to play music with.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, they're no longer in use. So what will happen?
Yes.
It's gone. But of course, it's our prayer as authors that we will write books that will be intergenerational. Yeah, that will transcend time.
Wow, that was so beautiful, Jemimah. I really, really appreciate it. And there's something I wanted to conclude with that I loved from your book. Treat your health as a choice motor vehicle.
Yes.
When all is said and done in your later years, be found as a conquer the elegance and not in a junkyard. And
exactly.
it was such a strong metaphor for all those people who are going to read this book and after reading it can reflect on how their nutrition and health journey is coming along. And I wanted to find out if anyone wanted to get your book. Sorry, let me remove this blood icon. How can they get it? How can they get this book?
So my book is available at various stores. You can get it at Jumia. Yeah, Jumia is an online store that is, you can easily access and it will be delivered to you. You can also get my book at CLC Bookshop, that is on Ngong Road. And there's also the CLC website, so you can buy it online. You can also get it at the Nuria stores. I think I'll share all the links so that you can share I'll share all the links, but so it's available in very, very many platforms. And you can also get my book on Amazon.
Oh, lovely. For the international audience that we have, and at least get it there. I am so grateful that you joined me. At the beginning, I didn't tell you all, but Jem is a dear friend of mine. I'm so glad I have so many author friends in my life and people who just are always passionate about personal development and growth. And that has been amazing. Sorry, just one moment. Sorry for that. Yes, Jem has been a dear friend of mine. She is passionate about personal development, and I will really, really encourage you all to read this book. It has been a blessing of mine. And Jem, thank you so much for joining the Authors Connect show. And looking forward to your next conversation with your next book.
Awesome. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you, Mawia. And all the best. Let's keep doing this. Thank you for taking this bold step, of going all out into YouTube and into social media.
Yes.
You're doing an amazing job. I'm so proud of you and so proud to be associated with you.
Asante sana, my dear. Let me stop recording now.